What's up, everyone? It's Matt Morozic, and this will be a long overdue update on the 172nd Jagd Doga I've been working on for a client. So Matt, here I am so far on your kit, getting the armor all squared away and everything. Those have been shaded and everything. These have been base coated. So everything was base coated in Plamo color blood orange, and I'm using the Plamo color acid green as the highlight color. So Matt, thank you for your patience on this kit. I know I've been real busy with other stuff and kind of put this on the side. So we're gonna get the all the shading knocked out so I can move on to the next step, which will be some masking and metallics. But I want to show you guys, I get a lot of questions on how I shade, and even though I have probably 3 or 4 videos on that already, I figured this would be a good opportunity to show that again. So what I have in my airbrush is the Plamo color acid green. Now you can't get Plamo color anymore, unfortunately. The guy who ran the company was a complete a-hole, but I love the paint and I got a crap load of it left, so I use it when I can. So I thin it 1:1 Plamo colored paint to Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. And if you've ever sprayed their paint before, it's really thin. And after you thin it, you think it's too thin, but it's actually perfect. But if you, it looks like you can spray straight from the bottle, but you really can't. It's kind of an interesting type of paint. So don't know what their formula is or anything, but from the bottle, it looks like you can spray it, but you really can't. So I got my airbrush set to 20 psi as I normally do. And what I like to do first is I like to just kind of go around the edges to make sure I get those. And I'm not trying to cover right now, I'm just trying to get a little bit of tone on them. And I'll try to do this so you guys can see what I'm doing. It's always hard to spray while you're filming because the camera's in my line of sight. So I try to do it like while I'm looking at the camera, but that's really tough for me. So I'm going to concentrate on the center areas and I'll work my way out. A lot of guys get really tight and they go real low air pressure. I don't do that. I'm actually back off quite a bit. It gives you a softer edge and a kind of a softer effect. Let me see if I can get this thing in focus. So here we go. So I'm going to start right here. Let's see if I can get this on camera. I'm just going to work my way around. Just come down this way in between these little details a little bit. And that's it for that spot. I'm going to turn to this area. Hold on 1 second. Sometimes my sticks are too long. I can't turn the part the way I need. And I'm going to work on this area right here. A lot of people ask me, like, how do you know when you're starting in the center of your part? Well, if you listen to the air, you hear how it changes pitches? When it gets that high pitch sound, like right there, I know I'm in the center. It's all about listening to the air. So that's how I know I'm in the center of where I want to start. I listen to the air coming out of the airbrush. There's a little raised detail I'm not going to worry about because that's going to go a metallic color. I'm just going to spray around it. And that's it for that highlight. A lot of guys get to get real tight and go right along the panel lines. I'm a lot looser. So it's kind of like just how I like the look I like. Again, we're starting in the middle of this panel. Again, you can kind of hear that high pitch. That lets me know I'm in the center. Oops, and I screwed up. So now I get to wait for that to dry. Let's try that again with this piece. All right, so starting over. I inadvertently pulled the trigger back when I did that, so we're going to start over on this one. It's the same piece, just the other side. Again, I'm just going to start in the middle and work around it. And there's no set rules on how to do this. It's all personal preference. Like I said, a lot of guys get in real tight, real low air pressure, and they're super tight in on the panel lines and stuff. I tend to shade a lot looser. If you hear it clicking in the background, my friend's taking some photos with me as I work. Actually, I should probably kind of come in like this a little bit. This piece, or this panel. And since I forgot to do the edges, first I'll do that here in just a second. Alright, so that's really it for the highlights on this piece. It's pretty loud. Now, since I forgot to do it at first, I'm just going to go ahead and when I do the edges, I don't spray straight on because I don't want this paint to go on the top side of the panel. I kind of spray it at a 45 from the back. Just gives it a little more shape on that edge. And my client is wanting this armor to be removable. So I'm not going to worry about covering the whole back side, but I am going to just, shoot a little mist coat of this color on the back. Not worried about covering it. Okay, so now we got all that. Now we're going to go and blend it in. And actually I'm going to do one little spot right here. There we go. Now I'm just going to basically kind of fan it on. Just putting it on. And the shading on this kit's a little more dramatic than I normally do. I want this to be pretty loud, pretty contrasty, so I'm not going to blend it in as much as I normally would. I'll probably get a lot of comments on how ugly the color scheme is, but it usually happens until I'm done with the piece, so I know what it's going to look like in my head. That's all that matters. So that's it. Now when this dries down, that shading will actually pop more. So there's that piece. We got while the other piece dries that I screwed up, I'm going to do the other ones. I'm going to have to sand that spot down and maybe hit it, respray that one with the orange. Since I pulled it out and that paint did that. Put a big old glop on it. And every piece is different as far as like how you want to shade it. When I do parts, I do all, like there's 4 of these pieces, I'll do them all right in a row, so they're all, consistent as far as their look. I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly fighting dust on my paint. All my kits have dust on them somewhere. No matter how much I clean the part, use a tack rag, clean my spray booth, I'm always getting dust on stuff. It's just unfortunate. Once I could get going, once I could kind of get going on this process, it doesn't go too slow. It goes pretty quick, actually, if I don't screw up. I'm kind of blend it in a little bit. The thing I love about the Playmo paints is that it goes on so freaking smooth. Far smoother than any mustard color paint I've ever sprayed. I really wish that the guy that ran the company wasn't such a dork and kept it going, because I would have switched over 100%. So there's that piece. By the time I'm done with this one, the other one should be ready for me to try to fix. Got a blue tack cloth here. If you get tack cloths, get low tack. Don't get high tack, because you'll get all it'll do is put the tacky part, the adhesive, onto your part. Again, everything's at 20 psi. Just recently have I been kind of playing with psi a little bit on some of the figure stuff I've been doing. I've been actually doing a lot of post shading, which I typically don't do, but for the figures it works really well. Again, spraying from the back, kind of at a 45. I don't want this paint to get on the front of the part. I just want it to hit the edge and the back side. And again, just kind of misting on the back. I don't need the cover. We're not going to see that. And then we'll go ahead and blend it in. Okay. And then I like to check it against like the last piece, and they don't have to be exactly the same, but it helps to make sure that you're consistent. Now if I go back and look at the first piece I did, see how it's dried down a little bit. It's a little more contrasty, so this piece where I screwed up, I always keep a kind of a sanding sponge in here for instance like this. I'm gonna see if I can sand this off and respray it. Otherwise I'll have to respray the whole part in orange and do it again, but let's see. I may luck out, we'll see. I actually put a little spit on the sponge. Nothing but the best camera work as usual. So far, if I go through the orange, that's when I'm gonna have to spray the whole piece. So if I don't go through the orange, I'll be okay. This ultra fine sanding sponge is relatively used, so it's probably worth like about 1,000 to 1,200 grit sandpaper. So it's just taking off a very small amount at a time. If I could avoid having to spray this thing orange again, that'd be awesome. Cross my fingers, looking good so far. So it's always a good idea to keep like an ultra fine or even the micro fine 3M sanding sponge in your booth. So if you do something like this, if you let it dry, you can go back and just lightly sand it and try to fix it. Keep yourselves from having to re-base coat the part. I always tell people I screw up a lot, but a lot of times I don't show you how to fix those screw ups. I just kind of keep going. Well, here's a good example. And I'm just now I'm going really, really light because it's almost gone. And I don't think I have to get this off all the way. What I don't want is to see a circle of paint. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and spray this with the green and see what it looks like. I think I can get away with that. So let's see. As long as my highlight value is brought up to that same level, I think I'll be okay. I think I'm good. I think I was able to save that without having to re-base coat, which is always good. Because if I re-base coat, I'd really have to wait for the orange to dry all the way to get it down to its final tone before I started highlighting. If I didn't wait for the orange to dry and I went ahead and did this, it wouldn't match because I'd be working with a different tone of orange. Because as things dry, they get darker. And if I try to do it too fast, it just wouldn't match. You want everything, you want all your kind of steps to match. There you go. So I was able to save that part. Yay! Alright, I'll do a few more, then that'll do it for this little update. So I'll just keep painting. I figure it's a good opportunity to show how to shade, because I always get the question, how do you do your shading? How do you do your highlighting? It's like, oh, here it is. Again, I'm just gonna. I always try to do the edges first. I forget a lot of times, but if you're gonna miss one part of your part, it's gonna be the edge. Trust me. Actually, I'm gonna reconfigure this on the skewer. Come this way. Yeah. I can't hear you. I don't know, ask Jaime. Seven's probably too late. The door's, I'll say 6. The door's open it. Alright, so this piece is a little easier. There's really only 2 highlights. Let's start with this one. Again, do you hear that high pitched noise? You can hear it. The air changes the sound. That lets me know where I am. Right there. That's the center. So right now I'm about, I'd say about 4 inches away from my part. I'm not real close. But you can see how soft my edges are, and I like that. And we'll go ahead and hit this part a little bit. Got a little raised detail part, we'll get a different color. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do this real quick, just like that. Okay, now we can go and blend it. There you go. All right, the next one. Highlighting usually goes pretty quick for me. What takes me a real long time is base coating. So I want to make sure I have a really good even base coat. So this process right here doesn't take me really that long. Alright, I'll do this last part and then call it quits. We're at about 20 minutes. That's enough of me yammering on and painting. I think it's enough for you guys to get the idea. So when you do this, you know, use your own preference. If you want to get in real tight, if you get in real tight, lower your air pressure. I don't know a specific number, just kind of whatever works for you. I always get a lot of questions, how do you thin your paint? I'm like, I thin it till it goes through the airbrush the way I like it. There's no formula. Sometimes you don't want it too thick, that's for sure, because it'll come out dry and sandy. But sometimes I'll over thin paint because I want it to be more like more of a clear paint than a real opaque paint. So sometimes I'll over thin it quite a bit sometimes. So there you go. So that's it. That's shading. If you guys have any questions, shoot me a note. But as always, thanks for watching. Bye.